Well, let's walk through what's really at stake here, the do's and don'ts of a debate. Former White House press secretary and CNN contributor Ari Fleischer is here, Republican strategist Kevin Madden, a spokesperson for Mitt Romney in the 2008 campaign, and senior political analyst David Gergen. Okay, I got to take a deep breath. I had to go for a long time there. Whew. All right, David Gergen, let's start with you. Who has the most to gain tonight?
Most to gain? I think Herman Cain. If he can take the punches tonight, if he can convince people that he's a serious candidate and not just sort of the flavor of the month, that he could become the anti-Romney candidate, and that's been the name of the game all along. Who can be the alternative to Romney? And nobody's been able to hold that second position yet.
All right, what do you think Rick Perry needs tonight?
Rick Perry needs to be aggressive, Rick Perry needs to be articulate, and he needs to go after Mitt Romney. Rick Perry's the presumed #2. He's dropped from that assumption. Now he has to retake that ground. And he's got the ability to do it. He's got the vulnerabilities in Mitt Romney that he can expose and open up. He just needs to be articulate and on point. And I can't understand why he has not done that yet in the debates.
All right, what about Mitt Romney himself? Your former guy.
Well, look, I think ultimately these debates are they're contests of who can be the most presidential. I think one of the reasons that Governor Romney has performed so well is because when he gets up on stage, the contrasts emerge. He doesn't even have to force them. He looks the most presidential because he's the most articulate on the economy. He has the most command and control on all the issues that everybody cares about. So I don't think he has to do anything really different on this debate. He has to keep doing that and keep winning that presidential contest with all the other candidates on stage.
Does likability matter for him, David Gergen? The fact that he's done better. He's improved on that count, but he's still...
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think Rick Perry has done him a favor because I think Mitt Romney's a better debater now than he was at the beginning of the campaign. But, Kevin, I think he needs to start going beyond where he's been. He's been sort of flatlining in the polls. He needs to solidify his position within the Republicans, but I also think he needs to start looking over the shoulders of these other guys to the general. And he's got to start building up his likability among American voters in general. The more he does that, the more I think that he becomes in effect, the candidate, the inevitable candidate for Republicans, and it strengthens him in his polls against Obama. That's very, very important in the next few weeks.
And Ari, in the recent polls, he's come out very well on electability, which, I guess fundamentally is more important than likability, but you'd like it if the two went together.
Well, it's like putting together a stew. There's going to be ideology that Republican voters vote on, likability that they vote on, and electability. For one voter, it might be more of one, less of the other, but they all three add up to what you historically look for in you say, can deliver the White House for me. You don't vote for somebody because you like them and you believe in them if they can't win. All three go together.
Right. And what about this whole issue of I was bringing it up earlier. I thought the New York Times did a great, New York Times Magazine on the GOP and the whole issue of the Tea Party. What is establishment GOP? Do you think that, how important is a Tea Party sign-on or endorsement for Mitt Romney at this point, Kevin?
Well, look, I think the Tea Party is not a monolithic bloc. This is a force within the electorate right now that's very focused on reform elements within the party. They want to see everybody. They're very animated about the issues of spending, deficits, and the growth of government. I think any candidate, if they're going to want to get Tea Party support, they don't necessarily have to go out and say, I'm a Tea Party. What they have to do is have a comprehensive vision on what they're going to do to reduce spending, what they're going to do to reduce deficits, what they're going to do to get government out of the way of the private sector. And I think Governor Romney has done very well on that, and that's where eventually, Wayne Gretzky used to have a saying, I don't skate to where the puck is, I skate to where I think the puck's going to be. Yeah. Well, ultimately, I think that's how you win campaigns, is that you try to build up your support, you try to make your message, so therefore when people go in there and they make their decision on the day of the caucus or the day of a primary, that they're there with you and they agree with you on those issues.
One of my nieces and nephews with the Gretzky comment there.
Keep the hockey going. Mitt Romney's also turned into a great goalie. Everybody keeps shooting, trying to score on Mitt Romney, and he keeps knocking the puck back and just skates out to center ice with it.
And nobody's been able
to take a good shot at him.
He needs to go on offense.
Well, but when you're the front runner, everybody's coming after you. My point is he's been able to rebut everybody, despite his vulnerabilities. That's to his credit.
Let me go back to what Kevin said and ask you this. My sense is that Perry tonight, instead of going after Romney, needs to go after Cain. He's got to puncture the balloon of Cain so that if Cain starts going down, it's Romney and Perry. The longer Romney has both Perry and Cain in the race, the better off he is.
If I'm Perry, I've got to go up to Romney, and I let everybody else go after Cain, because Santorum and Bachman need to go after Cain. You got to count on them to make that fight for you, and you concentrate on Romney.
I wouldn't count on the other guy making their fight.
I just hope there's a fight there. Any fight will do for me. I like watching them. All right, thanks to all three. We really appreciate it. Three people who really know what's going on out there. Roland Martin joins us now, CNN political analyst. And once again, Kevin Madden, Republican strategist and former campaign spokesman for Mitt Romney, and senior political analyst David Gergen. All right, great to see you all. Roland, you've just come into the conversation, so let me start with you. The president coming out swinging.
Well, he should, and frankly, he has to take an aggressive tact. He has to sound more populist, because if you actually think back to March 2009, I thought the White House made a serious mistake when they were tone deaf. People were so angry with the AIG bonuses. Everybody was upset, Democrats, Republicans, you name it, and they sort of was trying to figure out what was going on. And so he has to frame it as such, because that's where the anger is right now in the country. The question then, how do you move people to affect the members of Congress when poll numbers, when it comes to your jobs, bills on your side? But we haven't seen that reaction yet. That's the problem that he has.
It's interesting, Kevin. He's still going after Congress, not yet specifically at any of the candidates who are here tonight. Still letting them fight amongst themselves.
Well, the strategy is pretty obvious here. There's only one entity more unpopular than President Obama in Washington right now, and that's Congress. So he's going to try and run against Congress.
That's a huge gap.
And he's going to lead.
I had a senator on the other night who said, hey, our popularity is at 8%. That's pretty good. I'm thinking, whoo.
What's wrong with that 8%, right?
Yeah.
You know, but I think the problem here is why it's a jarring message is that he had 3 years before he even proposed a jobs plan. And the American people wanted action for the last 3 years, and they haven't seen it. The economy is in bad shape. He's failed on economic leadership, and I think that's why you're going to see so many of these Republicans go after him on that issue, because it's a huge vulnerability.
David, that's not true. First of all, the first stimulus bill, you had jobs attached to that, so it's not like that. You didn't have any jobs in there, so there's a whole difference between.
He said multiple stimulus plans,
that's a whole different
unemployment benefit and deterrence extension. Fair, I mean, I guess it's semantics and how you talk about it, but
I have to tell you, I think right now he's just treading water. Publicly. He's not connecting the way he once was, and I think he's sort of waiting now for the next sort of big event to come that he can shape, and that may be what the response to whatever happens in the Eurozone this weekend, and he has to work on it next week. It more likely is going to be what comes out of the super committee. It's working on the deficit. Something is shaping up there. Talked to a member today. He said it could be big. They don't know yet, but the president's going to have to be right in the middle of that fight, and then he's going to have to work with Congress, because he could potentially get a compromise that would really help him on a lot of different ways. Potentially. It's going to be hard. The other issue I think is out there that he's sort of been pulling at and taking a cover off is the question of inequality of income in the country. You know, these Occupy Wall Street demonstrations, and they're spreading. They're starting to be taken more seriously by the mainstream media. And they are starting to put on the table the issue of inequality. And the president has to play this very carefully. He's clearly come out for the demonstrators, but he's got to be very careful how he does it. But I frankly think it's a legitimate set of conversations.
But the trouble that he has, though, is that the economic team that he should have hired, the folks who wanted to deal with the inequality, he bypassed them, Ford, Geithner, and Summers, and that has been his problem. It's hard right now when you had Volcker and when you had others who wanted to make substantive, systemic changes to Wall Street to get rid of all the crap that we saw, and he chose not to go with them, but he chose to go with the team that's put him in the position. So he say, you know what, the first guys were right. I should have brought my A advisors in, but I went with the other guys. It's hard for him to make the argument right now.
That's right, and that's his fault. I mean, he's the president of the United States. He can't blame anybody but himself. It all, goes to the top. Another point that David made is, waiting for moments to take place so that your fortune is in a better place is a very, very difficult place for a president to be. You want to be in control. You want to be able to drive your message. You want to be able to define the parameters of this debate. And right now, he's not.
I agree with that, but that's because he's weakened and wounded. Right. And that's why he's got to find something to turn around that can strengthen him again. He's not been able to find that.
And they're testing various things right now. They have not been strong at going on the offensive with communications-wise. We talk all the time about him giving a great speech, but his communications folks, frankly, have been weak. And he's even said, we've done great things nobody knows. Guess whose fault that is?
All the great communications guys in the world aren't going to help somebody who doesn't have the right plan to put the nation back in the right direction.
Well, we got skills.
We got to leave it.
Even as good as I am, I couldn't do it.
All right. Thanks to all three.
I'm not going to say that. Sorry, Kevin.
All right. Thanks, all of you. Appreciate it.